This was after Selwyn took over after he wrote the collection of essays. She's in Australia.
Okay, go. Okay, our friend in Indonesia, especially Batak, please come in with us here to sing. Our friend in Haiti, can you show the slide? Yeah. Sing the Lord on your creator. Oh, good. Yes, Pastor Didi, I think you can lead the song, yeah, for us. Okay.
Wow, you really drink like a fish, huh? Oh yeah, man. They don't have they don't have those dispensing machine for beers. I tell you, if you have dispensing machine for canned beers, I think they could make a lot of money. In hotels, really. They need cake. I think I love. Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah, this song is actually have a traditional melody. It was yeah, it's 1920s. It's how to say being published on 2002. I think this is a popular song.
You can put your hands. Hallelujah, sing praise to your Creator, sun, moon, and stars and angels above. Praise the Lord who established the heaven. God reigns on high, let the rejoice. God reigns on high, let the rejoice. One more, please. Hallelujah, sing praise to your Creator, sun, moon, and stars and angels above. Praise the Lord, whose word established the heavens to uphold all the earth in power and love. God reigns on high, let the heaven rejoice. God reigns on high, let the heaven rejoice. One more. Please, one more. Yeah. Praise the Lord, all mountains and ocean rolling thunder and wind and strong clouds on high. Praise the Lord, your Maker, all living creatures, all the beasts in the fields and birds in the sky. Both young and old come and join in the song. Both young and old come and join in the song. Give to God all glory and honor, from the depths to the wind and the storm clouds high. Bless the Lord, you all strength and salvation for all people on whom God is fun. Praise God, you saints who are generous. Praise God, you saints who are in God's eye. And the next song, Holy, Holy, Holy. I think
Sorry.
you all know
Moses.
this song.
Dr. Winton is already here. Who's introduced to us?
I gave you 2 books this morning.
I thought that you have another.
Oh, one more for this song, they said, yeah. Well, if you would like to be involved with this song and also dance, please stand up. I would like to invite you to stand up. So,
That's why.
there are rules when you are doing dance of Batak people. For male, they do like this. Sometimes they do like this. It's kind of like this. And for women, they focus on your, how to say, on your nose, with your nose like this. How to say, some people say the Batak people really, how to say, really straight face, something like that, but it is not like that. They're more focused in adapting in prayer, because when they do dancing, they're praying, and then they do and like this. For the women, it's like this, never see the mind like this. So they are more focused. So you can do, but it's how to say, sometimes how to say, it doesn't mean how to say, when you are female, you cannot open your hand. You can do like this, and you can do like this, and you can do like this. For women, many variations for women. For men, they always do like this. Yeah. You can. It's just on the beginning of the song. You can focus first and pray in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and then. Yeah. Please, Reverend. Thank you. Could you please show the song? Praise the Lord. Could you please show the song? One more, yeah. For beginning. Hallelujah, sing praise to your Creator, sun, moon, and stars, and angels. Praise the Lord. God reigns on high, let the heavens rejoice. God reigns on high, let the heavens rejoice. You can follow the English song. I will sing the Indonesian song. Yeah. You can follow me. Tanda bagi Allah, pencipta cakrawala, segala serafim kerubin, pujilah Dia, besarkanlah namanya, bersorak-sorak bagi Rajamu, bersorak-sorak bagi Rajamu. Back to the first one. Hallelujah. Yeah. Hallelujah. Bersorak-sorak bagi Rajamu, bersorak-sorak bagi Rajamu. Yeah, thank you. the next song, Holy, 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 and Santo, Santo, Santo.
Are they going to sing the Indonesian another song that you were practicing yesterday?
Oh yeah, is it the time?
We can do have that one first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, stop.
So,
the conclusion,
so all we have 13 churches, the Lutheran churches in Indonesia, and we are united. We are united in the National Committee of Lutheran World Federation in Indonesia. So this is all our colleagues from different churches. They're from Batak people as well, from Nias Island and also from the Mentawai Island. Well, we have really a lot of cultures, dance, and even we are in the same island, but different languages as well. But we would like to perform from one tribe, it is Batak tribes, and then we will, sing 3 songs. The most popular song in the church of Lutheran Church in Indonesia. So this young girl will lead the song. We will follow her.
Sambamba Jehovah Devatata. Sigong gong langit dan noon rodi isina.
Amen, hallelujah.
Beta hitalau bersinggang tujuana.
Amen, hallelujah.
Besok kang jalan na badiara Jehovah.
Amen, hallelujah.
Endemon, amen, hallelujah.
Can one of us dance? We can stand up for one of us Nyanyikanlah nyanyian berbagi Allah kita cakrawala segala berdiri.
When Jesus washed my sins away, He taught me how there was a way. I was rejoice in every day. Celebrate every day. When Jesus washed my sins away, there was a way. And little
Please bring out your program and page 66. Your song now stimulated. We're going to make you calm down a little bit.
Let's sing the Spanish version first.
Santo, Santo, Santo,
Mi corazón 66.
corazón te adora. Mi corazón te sabe decir, Santo eres, Señor.
In English.
Holy, 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 my heart adores you. My heart is made to sing the Lord. You are holy God. English. Holy, holy, holy. My heart adore you. My heart is glad to sing the Lord. You are holy God.
Thank you. Please, those who knows this song in our closing service, check it before Tuesday morning. There's another one that so you can actually stand up, raw, okay? And this is again not a competition, but a very favorite song that I'm sure has versions in your language. Okay, so how many of you know the song "This Little Light of Mine"? Okay, everyone here knows the song. Now my question is, do you have a version from your community? Okay, the Koreans are always prepared. So there is a Korean version. Is there another one? Another bid. That's it? English and Korean only? Come on, no Thai? There's no version of Thai? This little light of mine? No? Wow, I'm surprised. What else? Nothing? Okay, well, it's okay too. You don't have to, but probably now is the time to have a version from your language, so keep on thinking. And so I'm gonna ask my sisters here, Pastor Jenny and Pastor Unyung. Let's sing the song in English first, and then only one verse. We don't have to have the other verse. Hear the Korean version, and then we'll sing the English one.
Can you please stand?
나의 피 비치게 할 테야 이 작은 나의 피 비치게 할 테야 이 작은 나의 피 비치게 할 테야 이 Mary, 돈 안에 안 들고 비치게 할 테야 돈 안에 안 들고 비치게 할 테야 돈 안에 안 들고 비치게 할 테야 Behind the table all the time. So the second verse is everywhere we go, but you have to follow me. You have to get out of the table. Steady? Ready? Come on. Everywhere I go, I will shine. Everywhere I go, I will let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere we go, everywhere we go, everywhere we go. I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere we go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere we go. Shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Jesus, give it to me. Jesus, give it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Jesus, Jesus, give it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Jesus, give it to me. Amen. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine. So you can, while singing, you can go out to your sound and let it shine. Jesus, speak to me. Jesus, give it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hallelujah. Are you now awake? It's like you drank a Red Bull.
Friends, that was wonderful. So let's give a big hand to the band. Echo, the trumpets, saxophonists, the bass guitarists. I don't know the names, but what a great group we have.
Can they shout their names?
Can you tell your names? Tell your name, loud. Okay. So I'll give them microphone. Every time they tell the name, please give applause to them. Please tell your full name.
Full name, my name is Athipatai. Hi everyone, you can call me Mael, Pastor Mael. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, you can call me Joel, Pastor Joel.
My name is Dioni.
I am Hengki Arapan Siwarmata, Indonesia.
My name is Natakun Panya.
And the women.
And all the
Over
women
there.
who said
No,
yes.
our singers. Pastor
Yes.
Jenny, get
The
up.
best singers.
Jenny Kim.
Hello everyone, call me Jenny Kim. Hello, call me Young, but just call me Young.
Thank you all so much. Friends, we started this day with a very powerful Bible study, followed by a very deeply theological and very practical presentation by Dr. Samit Samedabriev. And right now, we have a great panel to tell us what's going on. How do we respond to suffering and trauma? We have a great panel. I want to invite Dr. Lisa Chowdhury and Dr. Vinton Yangmetawood. Please come forward. And then Mr. Roy, Subhashish Roy, please come forward. Please have a seat. This afternoon, the next hour, we will be listening to the presentation by these three wonderful panelists. And I want to say a few words as we begin this. Responding to suffering and trauma. How do we respond to trauma? How do we respond to suffering? There are many ways. We have been listening since yesterday. And I have to say how I have two daughters and I'm a single parent. So when the pandemic came, they were always worried about me. They used to text me and say, "Dad, are you okay?" And they wanted to come and visit me. And they used to take the test before they visit me. They want to make sure they are negative before they come and take care of me. So I was always touched by the way they cared for me. How did we respond, or how do we respond, or how, when these things happen in future, how do we respond to suffering and trauma? We have a great panel this afternoon. We have Dr. Lisa Chowdhury. She comes from India. She comes from a family of doctors and community organizers. Her husband is a surgeon. When I asked Dr. Lisa to send me her bio, she sent me just one line. She said, "I'm a doctor, I'm a wife, and a mother." That's all. But she's doing great work as a pathologist in a rural village in Madhya Pradesh. We are so happy to have Dr. Lisa Chowdhury to be on this panel. Next to her is Dr. Vitun, pardon me, my pronunciation about Thai, Yangmetawood. He is a pediatrician, and he's also the director of Overbrook Medical Hospital here in Chiang. And then we have Subhashish Roy, who is a disaster response humanitarian and works for the ELCA as a staff, a required staff in India. I want to say very briefly about each of them and then invite Dr. Lisa, followed by Dr. Vinton, and then Mr. Subhashish Roy. Each of them will make a presentation for 15 minutes. Then we'll have 10-15 minutes for questions and answers or comments, and conclude this by 3 o'clock. Is that okay? So first and foremost, I want to repeat, we have Dr. Lisa Chowdhury, who is a pathologist and comes from a family of doctors. Both her husband's side and her side, dedicated doctors serving in India. I know her father and father-in-law and her brother-in-law and their families very well, and it's a pleasure to meet her at this conference, and I appreciate the work she is doing. Then we have Dr. Lisa will be talking from the medical perspective of how to respond to suffering and trauma, and also how to get resources to help people. Dr. Vinton Yangmetawood collected so much data from his medical experience as a pediatrician, and he wanted to share with us how to be prepared to address similar situations in the future. So he has put together a powerful presentation to share with us all the data he collected. Then we have Mr. Subhashish Roy. I want you to very quickly read the bio data information that he shared with me. Here it is, I'm just going. Subhashish Roy is currently working for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America as Program Manager for Lutheran Disaster Response International. So he responds to all the disaster all over the world. He's been busy with the issue of refugees from Ukraine in the recent time. He has experience of 19 years in humanitarian program management. His expertise includes quality and accountability, core humanitarian standards, disaster readiness, mental health and trauma, and disaster preparedness. He's also serving as a certified international trainer on SPEAR, CHS, DRR, and resilience. I don't know what these things stand for. He will share with us about those. But without further delay, I'd like to invite Dr. Lisa to go first, followed by Dr. Vintoon, and then last but not least, Mr. Roy.
Can I have this mic up? Good afternoon, everybody. And it's such a joy to be here. And thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to go into my PowerPoint presentation, please. At the beginning, I'd like to say a big thank you. I am so grateful to God. I'm grateful for this opportunity to come here and to be a part of all of you as we share for a few moments the journeys of our lives. I'm very grateful to the ELCA, who has been and is our companion and takes us along with them. Thank you. Next slide, please. The logo on the left is Pada Hospital's logo, which says, "Burdens lifted, hope restored." Exactly what Christ came out to do, to lift our burdens and to restore our hope. And the logo on the right is the ELCA. God's work, our hands. And how we have stopped calling ourselves partner after Reverend Chandran has corrected us many times. We are companions. We're companions together. Next slide, please. The topic was very unusual, I thought. Response to suffering and trauma. This is a really old story. I think suffering came, as we know it biblically, at the time of the fall. And along with the snake and the apple came what I call the D words: death, disease, destruction, depression, deprivation, degradation. All of those D words. These are all fallouts of that fall. Next slide, please. Now we look at the Bible, and I think I found 3 ways that we can react to suffering, and only one way in which we are called as Christians to respond to suffering. The first reaction was Job's wife. Now Job was this rich man. He had plenty of everything, but now he's been reduced to a homeless, helpless, childless man, covered with sores, sitting on the ash heap. And his wife comes out and she spits at him and she says, "Curse God and die. You're a fool for holding on to your integrity." That was the reaction of bitterness. Next slide, please. The next reaction is the immortal story of Jesus talking to us about the Good Samaritan. How the priest and the Levite went the other way. They turned a deaf ear and they turned a blind eye. They ignored the suffering that they saw, lying next to them on the road on which they both were walking. All three of them were walking. That's the second reaction. Next slide, please. And then we have the correct response. The Master who we are all following, and that's why we're gathered here today. Jesus was moved with compassion. And one version says, very medically, his bowels were stirred with compassion when he saw the masses. And what was his first response? What was his first response? He touched and he healed them. The deaf began to hear. The blind had their eyes opened. The demon-possessed became sane. The dead came to life. So we are called to live lives of compassion. Next slide, please. This is a lovely illustration. Jesus he was preaching to a jam-packed audience. Can you imagine if the roof suddenly opens and somebody comes down?
Avengers.
Jan13 saying Avengers, yeah. But that's what happened. The roof was taken off and this man was lowered down by his 4 friends. Sometimes we need to be one of those friends, bringing somebody for healing. Companions, compassionate companions. Next slide, please. This is a video. This is where we are in the world. That's India, the globe, and yes, please. Is it playing? It didn't play?
Yeah.
It did.
Okay, so we're moving in, and it's moving slowly. So in India, you can see that little town, and there's a small sign which says Pada Hospital. And close by is the church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Shanadin, can you put the cursor on the hospital, please? Finally, when we've reached, okay, that's the hospital. And the church? Yes. A Lutheran church. Okay. Next slide, please. This is the story of Pada Hospital. How did we start? This is a young English gentleman, a missionary sent to India, Dr. Clement Moss. But when he came, he was overwhelmed by the suffering he saw. And he knew that this place didn't only need a missionary. They needed someone to take care of their physical ailments. He had a Swedish wife and 3 daughters, and he traveled all the way to the north of India, Christian Medical College, Ludhiana, where I have studied. He was the first male student. He was the first male white student. He was the first male white student to be married with children. So he stood out for many, many reasons. And he came back to Pada and he started the little dispensary with a great vision. And that has grown into what we call now Pada Hospital, where we work. It is 64 years old, and we are very, very grateful to God for giving us this opportunity to work in Pada Hospital. Next slide, please. This is the community we work with, the tribal people. They are the Gonds, that is the Adivasis, that is what you would say are the native Indians. They're very similar in looks to the Aborigines of Australia. And we also have the Korkus. Look at the way they dress. You can see their sari is worn differently from the way I am wearing my sari. They live in tiled houses. They have their cattle. Next slide, please. This is the Korku tribe. Beautiful people, simple people, down to earth, but with different medical ailments, and we have to look after them. Next slide, please. Why do we do what we do? Because in India, healthcare is so formidably expensive. To put it very simply, 70% of India lives in the villages. 70% of India's doctors live in the cities. There's such a discrepancy. The people who need health do not have access to health. Every morning, after we have our morning chapel, we all say together the vision and the mission of Pada Hospital. The vision to provide services in the spirit of Jesus Christ to all, but especially the poor. And our mission, how do we do it? By prevention, by community work, by intervention, by diagnostics. I'm a pathologist, so I come in the diagnostic part of it. We aim to provide quality health care at low cost. Next slide, please. This is what our stone says. It says in Hindi, Parmeshwar ki Mahima aur Manav Seva ke liye, which translates to for the glory of God and for the service of man. Next slide, please. Please be warned, some of these are really horrific pictures. Where we live in Madhya Pradesh is considered the capital of oral cancer in the world. In the world. Every week we do what are called commando surgeries. We do no less than 3 of them, which involves taking out the cancer from the mouth and the bone and the lymph nodes. We have so much oral cancer. They come to us in very late stages. There are very few who come to us in early stages. Next slide, please. Some more ugly pictures. And you'll see how immense the need is. How much they need this kind of services that we aim to provide. Next slide, please. We have an operation theatre which is busy. We have 4 operation theatres. Next slide. Look at this little boy. He came to us with this huge, huge tummy. He had been left like this all his childhood. His kidney was stretched. It was like a big water bag. It needed a simple surgery. And that's him post-operative, post-op. The picture on the right is a picture through a renal scope. You're looking at the kidney and you see there's a big stone on top. And that stone has been taken out. And that's what is called a stag horn, like a stag, the antler of a stag horn stone. Next slide, please. Our neonatal intensive care unit. Dr. Vintoon is a pediatrician. We have many babies born in the hospital, those who need intensive care, and we have the services for it. Next slide. So many patients who need cataract surgery. Cataract is a preventable cause of blindness. And we see them coming for their camps, they come, and it's like a bazaar, it's like a fair. They all have such a good time, chatting away, sitting in the sun, exchanging stories. It's really nice to see. It's a strong sense of community. Next slide, please. We are not limited. We are not limited to health services. We also have a burden for leadership. We have an English medium higher secondary school. Next slide. And a school and college of nursing. Most of our students are the first in their families to study, to be literate, to go to college. And then they get good jobs. Nurses are well-paying jobs, even in India. Next slide, please. We engage with the community. And here I would like to say the ELCA has helped us so much in engaging with pregnant mothers, providing nutritious food. Next slide. Community psychiatry. We found there are so many patients who have psychiatric ailments. And we reach out to them through our clinics and we give them free medications. And these are also wonderful stories of lives being turned around. Next slide, please. This is who we are. Pada Hospital, this is most of all our staff. Is it easy? Never. Are there challenges? All the time. The challenge of getting a low pay package. The challenge of looking at your colleagues and knowing that they're earning so much. They have access to great cars, a great lifestyle, some things that we may never have. But is it worth it? Yes, it is. Next slide, please. COVID. The first wave of COVID was very brief, very mild. Then, next slide, please. We could, at leisure, make our PPEs. Again, the ALCA helped us with this. Next slide, please. Then came the second wave. That was like a tsunami. We had run out of beds. We had run out of oxygen. We had the administration on the phone talking to people who were booking beds for their loved ones. In the space of 6 weeks to 2 months, we had 144 deaths, of which one was our own bishop, Bishop Panju. Non-clinicians like me had to go back to the wards and help out in taking rounds and looking after these sick patients. Next slide, please. The ELCA stepped in again. Next slide, please. They gave us a huge donation. Next slide. By which we could purchase necessary, expensive equipment to equip a high dependency unit. We are very grateful to them. The plaque says that it's from a family who lost a loved one. So again, you see how suffering has brought about healing to another community. Next slide, please. Remember the 4 friends? All of us are called to be friends. Friends of people, friends to help out, friends to bring others to Christ. Next slide, please. Pada Hospital and the ELCA. I'd like to take a little pause. Reverend Moses today said that you can have a little bit extra time. So the next part of what I'm going to say is very personal. All my life I have been struggling, and it was only diagnosed in 2019. And what I have is what is called generalized anxiety disorder and depression. All of which are part of a huge spectrum of what we call mental illnesses. Not talked about. Very embarrassing to have these labels. People are, shh, don't talk about it, don't talk about it, it's all right, you'll be okay. Next slide, please. As we sang today, let the weak say, I am strong, because of what the Lord has done for me. Strength is vulnerability inside out. So as I stand here, I am very proud to say that this diagnosis was a gift. Next slide, please. Depression and mental illnesses cause suffering at a personal level, amongst the family, in the community. Therapy brings healing. Therapy, whether it's through medication or whether it's through psychotherapy or what we call now cognitive behavioral therapy. And I am so blessed that I have a fantastic Christian psychiatrist. And we Zoom and we have WhatsApp video calls. Praise God for technology. I have one extra hero other than Jesus. He is the man who was demon possessed, who lived among the tombs, cutting himself. And Jesus touched and healed him. And he said, Master, let me come along with you. And Jesus said, no, you go back, testify, tell others what God has done for you. That's the story of my life. So wherever I go, God puts it in my heart to share. Something that we don't normally share about. I said this is a gift because at the same time, I was blessed with this strange gift of being able to write poetry. And I have written a poem for this talk of mine, the theme being responses to suffering. and trauma. Next slide, please. The darkness we see in and around us was brought about by the fall. The world was changed forever. Disease, decay, death for all. Suffering is not partial. It comes in various guises. The body, mind, soul affected. Families and societies in crisis. Next slide. God the Creator sent His Son, Jesus the Redeemer, to rectify. His vision, redemption. His mission, save and give eternal life. He was a friend of the unloved, saw the heart in need, the blind, the deaf, the ostracized ones. He loved them, touched them, and healed. Next slide. We, His children, the chosen ones, have a mandate to live by. Be His hands and feet. Be people of salt and light. We are called to be history makers, live lives of worth and impact. Reach out to the last, the lost, and the least, the hurting and those in lack. Next slide, please. Be the neighbor to the stranger. Be the feet bearing good news. Be the liberator of the captive. Be the ones who bind and loose. Rise up then, children of light. Shake off apathy and envy. Follow the resurrected Redeemer. His death has won the victory. Thank you very much.
Yes. I very appreciate with the very wonderful presentations by Doctor. I'm a pediatrician. I'm a Presbyterian. I'm not Lutheran. But yes, we are all brothers and sisters in Christ. It's a good moment for me here with you all to share my experience as a medical doctor, the point of view of the COVID-19. So we should know that what is COVID-19, what is the nature of this disease, and what we will find is the status of COVID-19 in the future. Is the point of my view as a medical doctor. Yes, I would show the first slide of the COVID-19. This picture shows you a picture for electron microscope of the COVID-19. It's a spherical virus with some protrusions. So it's called, it's like the corona. So it's called this COVID, coronavirus. The second slide. Today I will present you 3 tasks. The first one is the overview of the virus knowledge. The second one is the characteristic of the coronavirus. And the third one, the nature of the COVID-19, the deadly virus. Okay, for the first one, the overview. Before we go deep into the COVID-19, we should know the nature of the virus. I will try to simplify my knowledge as simple as possible, for I know that just only one doctor, medical doctor here, and all other is a theological doctor, that I have very little knowledge about that. For me, my strength is a doctor, so I want to share you all my knowledge to praise the God. Okay, the second slide, the next one. You should know that the virus is the smallest pathogens that cannot seen by usual microscope. We need a very, very delicate equipment that we call electron microscope to see the very, very small organisms. So the virus is look like this. The particle may be many shapes, but sure, everything is very small. The next slide, please. The structure of the virus is very simple. I can classify the structure of the virus into 2 main parts. The first one is the cover, and the second one is inside the particle. It's called the genetic materials. All of the virus composed of the same structure. but in any kind of shape. That is the nature of the virus. Okay, the next one. So we must know that virus itself cannot replicate by their own. They need some cell for them to act as a pirate to replicate themselves. So this one is the important part we should know about the virus. Sorry, I'm not a theologist. So my point of view just only focus as a scientist. So you should know something about this. Okay, the next slide. This slide is very complicated to understand, but I will simplify it very easy. So the first one, at the lower part of this slide, is the cellular structure, and the small particle here is the virus. The virus, when we contact with the virus, then the virus, very small particle, when compared to the cell structure, the virus will attach to the cell surface, and with some chemical reaction, then the virus go into our body, into our cells, and then the virus get out from the wall, and that genetic material produce some chemical substance that try to control our intracellular organelles, such as ribosome, such as Golgi apparatus, and then produce some proteins, and then they control our cells, act as a pirate, then replicate a new one of virus, and then protrude and get out from the cell and infect another cell. This is the very important pathogenesis of the virus infection. The next slide, please. So, the most important part is that the virus is just only a small part of the genetic materials. So it's very difficult for them to control the replications. It means that every time the virus try to replicate the new genetic materials, there may be some mistake. So it's called the mutations. So replication and mutation for the virus is a common phenomenon that we found in the replication of the virus. So virus and mutations go along the way when they replicate. Okay, next slide, please. So the second topic I would like to say is that the characteristic of the coronavirus. Coronavirus is very important because there is many types of the virus in the world, such as dengue virus, such as papillomavirus, and coronavirus is one of the important issues because now COVID-19 is all over the world. So we should know about the coronavirus first. Next slide, please. Coronavirus, there are many subtypes of coronavirus. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. If we classify coronavirus, in very easy way, we can classify into two parts. The first one is the human coronavirus that is usually found in human beings for a very long time. This virus, such as this one we call is the OC43. The next slide, please. This human coronavirus can cause just only a mild disease, such as a common cold. Because of the virus live in our body for many long periods of times, the human coronavirus is not a problem. Okay, the next slide, please. But the problem is happen when the virus from the animal wine, such as this one. This virus from the bat virus that's usually found in the human being. When the human contact this serious virus, so we call this name the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus. Human is the accidental host. Usually, this virus cannot found in the human being. It's found only in the bat. Next slide, please. So suddenly, we found the new disease that never found in the human being before. We call it the SARS disease, severe acute respiratory syndrome virus disease. It happened in China at the beginning, from 22 to 24, with about 8,000 cases, with very high mortality rate, 11%. And now, no more SARS virus in human being. Next slide, please. Another serious deadly virus is called the MERS virus, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus. This is another deadly coronavirus. It was found in Middle East, so we call it Middle East Respiratory virus. The normal host of this virus is the camel. And sure. Next slide, please. After we got reported from this virus from 2012 to 2020, with approximate about 1,000 cases and very, very high mortality rate, about 40%. This was a very deadly virus, but thanks God there is no more in human. Next slide, please. And now, this is the point, the COVID-19 virus. This virus, the normal host is unknown, but we postulate that it's come from the bat. Next slide, please. This virus was found first in 2019, and until now, we have many cases of COVID-19. I'm not sure, maybe some person in this room got some virus too. Sure? You? Okay? Until now, we got about 600 cases of COVID-19 infection. And when I calculate by myself, overall mortality rate of this virus is very low, just only 0.1%. Next slide, please. The common problem is that human and wild animal. Usually humans live in the city, and animals live in the forest, in the cave. But when human and animal contact each other, it causes a serious condition like this. The second slide, please. The next slide, please. The problem is that when our body got some immunity that can protect the virus, for the new one, a new type of virus that we never found before, and it's caused a serious condition, such as MERS virus, such as COVID-19, such as SARS virus. Next slide, please. Okay. I will talk about the nature of the COVID-19, the deadly virus. Next slide, please. Timeline of the COVID-19. Next slide, please. First case report of the COVID-19 in Wuhan, China, with the first case report. Next slide, please. In January 2020, WHO announcement, this virus is the public health emergencies of international concerns. This means that the scientists must take care of this virus very seriously. Next slide, please. And in March 2020, just only 3 months after the outbreak of this virus, the WHO announced that this disease is pandemic. It means that worldwide. We can find this virus in anywhere, any place in the world. Okay, next slide, please. Why? COVID spread worldwide. And MERS virus just focus only a few countries. And why SARS just only can control very easy. This is my own opinion. The first one is the nature of the disease. The COVID-19 virus is not too deadly when compared to other viruses, MERS and SARS. Many cases with this virus, but without just only a small symptom or without any symptom, it means carrier stage. So, and the third one, the highly contagious nature of this disease. So, because of this, we can control the amount of the COVID-19. Next slide, please. At the beginning of the COVID outbreak, this deadly virus from the wine, postulate that is from the bat. Next slide, please. The estimated mortality rate at the beginning, the report from China, the mortality rate reached about 10+%. very high, very dangerous. Okay, next slide please. But not deadly when compared to SARS and MERS. Next slide please. Carriers COVID-19 without any symptom. This is a problem for the virus to spread worldwide. Next slide please. Highly contagious. Next slide please. COVID now is everywhere. Next slide please. Next slide please. Everyone, one time is your life, sure. You should be infected with this virus. Next slide please. The severity of COVID-19 is lower and lower. Next slide please. Vaccines is the most effective strategy to control this virus. Thanks God for the knowledge of the scientists and everything. So we now no need to worry about this virus anymore because of the knowledge. Okay, next slide please. The recent treatment of the COVID is better. We know a lot of knowledge about the virus. We know the structure of the virus. We know the antivirus medication. We know the mechanism of the virus. We know how to use anti-inflammatory medication to control the severity of the disease. So the lower mortality rate of this virus is a good news for us. So anyone infected with this virus, you no need to worry. Next slide please. But the problem is that the nature of the virus and the mutation. COVID always mutate to a new strain. This is we must look for in the future. Next slide please. Sure, another fact is that vaccine cannot prevent you from infection. And we know the more data show that vaccine is less efficacy in the term of prevent from infection. But, next slide please. The most benefit of vaccines is to prevent the severity of the disease, to lower the mortality rate, to reduce the rate of admission, to reduce the rate of death. This is very important. Next slide please. Yes, but the uncertainty is that the future of the mutation of this virus. Next slide please. So far, no need to worry. Everything is under control. So you all can come here without any difficulty. Okay? Next slide please. I would like to show you some data to make sure that this virus is not deadly as we think by this information. This is the data of the US from the COVID, and I will compare it with the influenza infection. Okay, next slide please. This data is from the Center for Disease Control, US. The estimate amount, the case of the influenza infections every year is about 30 million cases per year in US, the very developed country when compared to Thailand, the very undeveloped country. Next slide, please. This slide shows the number of new cases of the COVID-19 in US. You see, sometimes one day new case about 200,000, but I estimate that about 50,000 new cases every day. Next slide, please. If we estimated that COVID in US every day about 50,000 cases every day, 1 year, 18 million cases. When compared to for the influenza, it's just in the same amount of case of COVID and influenza. Estimates the flu about 30 million cases. Another fact is that the flu mortality rate is about 0.1%, very low. When compared to the US, when I calculate by myself over all the case and the death, it's just about 1%. It's slightly high. But when compare the mortality rate of the COVID-19 in Thailand, a very poor country, a very underdeveloped country, the mortality rate of COVID-19 in Thailand is just only 0.1, the same as in influenza. Because the high mortality rate at the beginning of this virus outbreak in US, so it's caused the high mortality rate in the COVID-19. Next slide, please. Vaccine efficacy in the prevention of flu is not 100%. It's the same as in the COVID infection. It's just only about 40 to 50%. No 100% in medicine. You must say that no 100% in medicine. This is, I was taught as the medical student that there is no 100% in medicine. So vaccine is the same. And flu virus is also mutated as the usual virus. So we need to boost the flu vaccines every year. But for COVID-19, until now, we not know the future. But sure, it's have a trend that we need to boost this vaccine at the interval, but not sure now. Okay? Next slide, please.
1 minute.
Huh?
1 minute.
Okay.
1 more minute.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, thank you. I will conclude my presentations now. Now, don't worry, everything is under control. Everything should turn to normal. The future depends on the mutant strain of the virus. But so far, so good. No need to worry. Thank you for your attention.
So, I was trying to prompt him, the time is up, but he was going away. But so we are, the time is 2:50 now. We should give 15 minutes to Mr. Roy. We will go a few minutes over. I hope it's okay with all of you. Sure.
Yes.
So please, Mr. Shobhashish Roy.
Okay.
Ready? Perfect. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to this unique session on suffering in the trauma, where I like to, take you on another journey, another layer of severity of the suffering and the trauma. And so let me take you to the journey of the humanitarian landscape. And I will start with the year 2022. Next slide, please. In 2022, the records of the disasters, the number of the disasters have been broken actually. And this is the reason why 2022 has been taken by each and every planner, the humanitarian planner, into account. Do you have any idea how many disasters happened in 2022? That includes the disasters induced by the climatic variations or the disasters induced by the man-made, like the conflicts. Any idea? Any rough estimate? It's almost more than 550. It's just 1 year. So if you just divide that one by 365, it is coming out approximately around 1.5. So every day, approximately 1 or 2 disasters is happening in any part of the world. Now, this is the part of 2022. This figure, you can see, this is a rough estimate, the projection that we can see for 2023. And you can see the statistics, how much people are in need of humanitarian assistance. They are on suffering and the trauma. This particular part is purely on the humanitarian assistance, humanitarian need that includes the food security, water sanitation hygiene promotion, shelter settlement non-food items, and the healthcare services. Now, if you include that particular part as a humanitarian part, you can say 339 million people will be in need of humanitarian assistance. That means survival needs. And that is accounting to approximately around 51 billion actually. Next slide, please. You must be interested that, okay, this is the figure of 2023 projections. What exactly happened so far? So just this is a, the sketch of last 10 years actually. And you can see the yellow line, which is the actual funding goes into the humanitarian assistance program. And whereas the black line is the actual need. So you can see, very interestingly, that both the lines are on inclined position. That means that the funding is also growing. Humanitarian need is also growing. But if you compare these two lines, there is a huge gap of the current funding and the current need which is existing in the community. It's a huge gap. Next slide, please. Now this is a unique slide. I was taking some of the instruments, the events that is contributing towards the disasters across the globe. And you can see that in 1945, after the World War II, the data which is available to us, you can see that the major, the data was available for the flood kind of situations that has taken care of by the different other disasters like the drought and now the wildfire. Now this is very unique actually, and you can see that almost every 10 to 12 years there is an addition. So there is nothing like the flood is not, it's not that flood is not happening. Apart from the flood, there are a couple of other things that happen. That shows that the intensity, severity and the complexity of the disasters is increasing significantly. Next slide, please. So this one is about the displacement and the impact of the disaster. You might be thinking that, okay, fine, the floods are happening, wildfires are happening, and what is the big deal? You can see that because of this disaster, this number of the people have been displaced. You can see that 100 million people have lost their houses. They are not staying in their house. Now you can see the relationship. What we have, the suffering and the trauma. For us, sometimes when you're outside our house, 7 days, 8 days, we feel that no, now we need to go back to our home. And you can see these people who are staying in the refugee camps, IDP camps, internally displaced people's camps, for months, for years. Can I take the example of so many people, and the recent one is the Ukraine. Next slide, please. This is more specific to the different regions who are in need of the humanitarian assistance, and I would like to highlight that, see the example of Asian Pacific. If you see the compare between the Asian Pacific and Latin America, Africa, it is almost at par of the need actually, and this is securing the first positions. That means Asian Pacific is one of those regions where the humanitarian need is the highest. Next slide, please. Now, this is very unique actually, and you can see that Asia is one of the priority area for all the humanitarian planners. You can also see that globally, 70% of the people affected by the disasters through the climate instruments, 70% are from Asia. So you can see that how important the Asia region is for our own planning process. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now the projection. What exactly we can assume or project it? I'm not a fortune teller. But we can say that in coming days as well, these set of the issues will continue to grow 2023, 2024, because you can see the projections actually. So I don't have to declare that one, you can easily understand that. Next slide, please. There is a study happened with WHO and the different other partners to understand that within those different humanitarian needs, one of the critical need is the psychological and the social aspect of the need actually. And which was growing during the whole process in the response. We witnessed a couple of times that yes, there is a need actually in the community at the ground level. So the different studies happened in the different regions of the world. And based on those studies, next slide please, you can see that the first slide where you can see the depression and the second slide is anxiety. It is on increasing trend. It is increasing. The depression, anxiety, and other symptoms. I have not included the other symptoms, but most of the symptoms that includes the psychological and the social impact is increasing significantly. Next slide, please. Now, just a little bit of alarming figures based on the reports. And this is a very conventional study. I was part of this particular study, so I can vouch for this one. It's a very conventional one. It says that when there is a disaster, when there are people affected, approximately 22% of the total affected population having the symptoms of severe to mild symptoms of psychosocial issues, psychological issues. That includes the post-traumatic stress disorder as well. Now, in this kind of the situations, the trauma is another trauma that in a humanitarian kind of a context, the medical facilities are barely available actually. Very difficult to get those services during that particular time. If you ask me, this particular 22%, I would easily say that it is 30% from my calculations and my records, the database. Next slide, please. So what exactly we mean by the psychosocial part, which is coming up so frequently. So this is the relationship between the psychological and the social compact. And we have realized that any particular psychological stress or psychological symptoms is really connected with the social orders as well. Sometimes you can see that in the community there are existing discriminations, there are existing inequalities, there are existing poverty, there are existing diseases that also contributes towards the psychological part of the things, and it gets multiplied so many times when there is a disaster happen in that area. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk about the intervention component, we always talk about the well-being flower. This is called as a well-being flower, and you can see that in well-being flower there are so many different pieces are there. Sometimes it is spiritual, sometimes psychological, mental, economical. And when this particular part is keeping as a balance, then only we can say that is a human well-being has been attained. Next slide, please. But usually it is very difficult to get those things in the disaster situation. And I will conclude with this particular slide where we always say as a humanitarian practitioner that for each and every psychological and psychosocial component, you don't have to run to the hospital. The primary thing is the identification. Early identification is the key, as for any other diseases also. But in this case, it is so important that if you identify any particular early symptoms during the disasters, that like withdrawal system, the depression kind of thing, aggressiveness, those kind of the things has been identified early. There are possibilities through which the things can be resolved. And there are 4 layers actually. The first, the lowest level, that usually we call as the individual level. And this one includes that whenever there is a disaster, they need some basic needs to fulfill. What are the basic needs? They need food, they need water, they need sanitation, they need hygiene, shelter, non-food items, and healthcare services. We need to ensure that these services are available to each one of them exclusively. I'm repeating, exclusively, without any discrimination, because that is sometimes leading towards the next layer of psychological impacts. The second layer is about the family or the community part, where we usually feel that the people have been withdrawn from these things. In the grief and the things is so high that they are not participating in some of the day-to-day activities. We intervene in the whole process, identify the opportunities where the people can engage in the community-based works so that they can relax their mind for some time, they can engage their brain to the different other activities, and that could be a therapeutic interventions for them. The third component is little focused and need little bit of the specialized hands. It is called the peer group concept. And in this particular case, the clinical side as well as the social side combines together to provide those services. For example, the rape victims or survivors, they need different set of the intervention, different set of the services. Because their mindset, the psychological part and all these things is very different from the normal set of the post-traumatic stress disorder or any other component. So little bit of the clinical part and all these things is required. And the last one, where the percentage is less, which is the specialized part where you can see the symptoms of like suicidal, attitude kind of things are there. These are the different layers of suffering and the traumas that we can see during the disaster response part of it. And it is not always that we need to go to the hospital to get it rectified each and every part. At least for 1, 2, and 3rd level to such an extent, we can intervene and we can start processing that particular thing. And for the last one, definitely we can go ahead with that. So I will conclude here by saying that these are just mere statistics and it can be vanished and outdated in very easy ways and a blink of eyes. But my request to all of you and for me as well, to be present during those humanitarian response part, your presence and your commitment is more than enough to resolve any particular suffering and the trauma. Thank you so much to the audience.
Thank you, Subhashish Roy. I want to invite the panelists to come and take their seats. And friends, ever since the pandemic started, one of the common prayers we have is we pray for the first responders, right? We have been praying for doctors, nurses, hospital staff, police officers, fire staff, and people who are on the ground. We have been praying. And these 3 panelists enlightened us to say that prayer is important, but there is more we can do. Dr. Lisa shared with us the way the Padar Hospital is reaching out to the tribal and the indigenous people there, the poor in India, in Madhya Pradesh. And with the biblical insight, she inspired us to see how we can extend our response to those in need. And Dr. Winton has given us a very detailed understanding about different types of viruses and concluded with a very promising note that everything is under control. That is very good to hear. But he also enlightened us with that scientific knowledge. So that's wonderful. And then Subhashish Roy shared with us the growing disaster situations in the world and the response that is needed, and how we all need to rise up and respond to these issues. So I want to express my sincere thanks to all these panelists, and thank you for your presence and your participation in listening to these wonderful presentations. I want to say, if there is any question, one question maybe. It is difficult to pose one question to all these three panelists, but one question if you have, that is by anybody who hasn't spoken yet. I want to invite and give the opportunity. One, can we take one question at least to all the three panelists? If there is, yes, we have our friend from India. Please identify yourself. The microphone is here. Would you kindly share?
My name is Kishore Kumar Nag. I'm the Executive Director for Lutheran World Service India Trust. First of all, I express my sincere thanks to three of the panel members for excellent presentation. Thank you very much. And I have to ask one question, so I will ask to Subhasista, because he has very brilliantly presented about the disaster situation around the world. It is really a great concern for all of us. And reaching to the unreachable people in time and saving their life in the crisis period is a great challenge. And he has projected the statistics that day by day the disaster is increasing because of the climate change situation. And related to the response is also increasing, but the gap and the ratio is very high. So in this context, what can be the solution to reach to the unreached people and save their lives? Because one of the solutions we always think that the community resilience. If the community is capacitated, then they can be the first respondent to any types of disasters. So how to really reduce the gap between the growing disaster and available resources to address this issue? Thank you very much.
This is a very good question actually, and the answer, you have partially answered your own question actually. But just to reinstate that whole process, the gap definitely is increasing, and this is very, very alarming actually. One of the reasons why the gap is increasing is the increasing price of the commodities. So when you see that last 5-6 years, the unit cost of one particular response per person was approximately ranging between $140 to $50. That was including the food, water, sanitation, blah. Now that has gone exponentially high. It is ranging right now at 60 to 70. And this is the reason, even if the growth of the funding, like the people are contributing more, that is true. Number of the humanitarian agencies, number of churches, number of the responders, first responders are also increasing. That is also true. But because of the commodity price, it is increasing. That is one thing. The second reason is that there is very less scope so far adopted by the people like us to reduce the risk in that particular community. So whenever there is a disaster happens, we bring food, water and all these things, go to that spot, distribute that particular thing and come back and say that my project is a very successful one and satisfied one, because the people were in need of food, we have given the food to them. The relief operation is highly expensive. We need to reduce that expense. And one of the way to reduce the expense is integrating the disaster risk reduction. That was the point, DRR, you are talking about. So disaster risk reduction measures needs to be incorporated mainstream into the humanitarian response programs as well. And when you identify those risk areas, hazards in the different locations, I have the record of 191 countries right now. What kind of the severity is there, what kind of the risk is there, what kind of the coping capacity they have. And based on that, if we can design some risk reduction measures in coming days, it will dramatically reduce the cost of the relief operations. And if it will reduce the cost, we can reach more and more people actually. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Subhashish Roy. Shall we give a big hand to our panelists? And thank you all. Over to Pastor Peter for the next program.
It's break time.
Break time, 15 minutes? 15 minutes? Oh yes, just 1 minute, if I can have, thank you, Pastor Fongsa. We would like to, Subhashish, do you have, there are books that we have put on the podium. We have kept books on the podium, and they're not to be seen here. Subhashish, did you by any chance take?
Yeah.
Yes.
No. It's actually a small. I got it.
Oh, they're here. So I'd like to invite Dr. Wintun to come forward. To the panelists, we want to give present small gifts, and for all the panelists, we hold the stream book as a complimentary copy to you. And for Dr. Wintun, we'd like to present the commentary on Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians in Thai.
Yes.
This is specially written by your friend, the Reverend Dr. Pongsak Klim Thong Viratan. So I'd like to present this to you. So 15 minutes break.
This is another panel. When the authority vested upon me by the steering committee of ALIC, I'm going to make some changes to the program. We will go from 3:30 to 5. And immediately following will be the worship. So you will have an early break for dinner on your own. No dinner is being served at the hotel unless you buy it by yourself. So you can go out to the town and enjoy the meal. Okay? That's the change to the program. That's the plan anyway. For the next hour and a half, we are going to have a panel. Unlike the previous panel, I'm asking the participants, the panelists, to make 1 or 2 comments on the theme, Global Lutheranism Gifts and Challenges. It's a very broad theme, ambiguous thing. Anything can be said under the title. So I want to restrain you from speaking too much and say 1 or 2 things that comes to your mind as you prepare for this panel, so that we'll give more opportunities for the audience to participate and ask questions. So I'll go with Pastor Reverend Bishop Srila.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Once again, I have pleasures to talk again, and still a bus, but I will try my best to speak as short as I can.
As fast as can.
So, yeah, first of all, I would like to thanks to Evangelical Lutheran Church of America for inviting me, to give me an opportunity to share gift and challenge. After a Lutheran church in Cambodia, one of the wider Lutheran communion. Lutheran church in Cambodia is the blessing from God to Cambodian people, which is a channel of Christ, hope, love, and life to Cambodian. God gives RCC and His people special gift and talent so we can live fully for Him. Evangelist RCC responds to His call to live in His gift of faith in community. In our church, we mainly focus in children ministry, want to see children grow up to be healthy within physically and mentally, intellectually through the support children education such as hygiene, ethic, discipline, knowledge, children right, along with spiritual growth. And also we work as a youth ministry, want to see young Cambodians have ability and potential to develop themselves and be a pillar of their family, community, and society by involvement of the church through the motivation and encouragement for them to continue to learning and study with the providing accommodation, scholarship, sponsorship, and life lesson program about life and identity. In addition, giving youth time and opportunity to seek and experience God's and be able to live as His testimony to others. We also have elderly ministry, inclusive elder in the community to have life skills to live with fulfilling life and be a good witness for future generation. Lutheran Church in Cambodia having an important role in community to strengthen people with physically, mentally, like education, life skill, livelihood, family ministry, counseling, scholarship, and sponsorship.
and bring them towards the spiritual growth. Our Lutheranism in Cambodia was established around 12 years old in Cambodia. So it's quite young among other Christian churches. We found that it's somehow challenging when we build a relationship with other churches. Many churches not heard or know Lutheran Church, so we need to explain Lutheran confession, faith, and doctrine to them. Otherwise, they would consider us as cult. Even so, RCC project and program have always tried to cooperate and work with other churches, NGOs, and people with the authority in the community. Moreover, I personally, in this 3-year period, facing the challenge related to Khmer culture. Usually, men head of all in the house, workplace, decision making, something like that. Look at the RCC. There was 9 years under men leadership, and in 2020, I am chosen to be leadership role. I faced difficulties such as barriers to women leadership due to the culture. Then men used to be the head for so long in the culture. To develop the program, sometimes women have to express their preacher's idea, thought, wisdom to develop our joint hand, to develop the program or lead the program. Through my experience, I sometimes getting pain in a leadership role, while I am called by God to serve my people, but I don't have free opportunity to respond with my call. Several times, I pursued myself to give up. Nevertheless, I am grateful to God that He always be with me and hold my hand in His way to serve Cambodia. Furthermore, He brings many people to support, stand and listen to me, so that I am getting the encouragement. Likewise, I am always pray to God that He gives me strength and courage to support other women who have the call, gift, and visions to motivate their personnel in serving God in leadership. Additionally, Lutheran Church in Cambodia is a small church. It exists in white Cambodia, but this small church is a blessing to Cambodia, and we are very grateful to God. Besides this, RCC expects to be a relationship with other Lutheran in worldwide. We need your prayer, exchange experience and knowledge, sharing the challenge and success, communicate and listen. I believe that through this activity, we together receiving good effort. We stand together as God commands us to be community, not alone. So you and I, we are not alone. Last but not least, I express my gratitude to our partner, especially ALIC, Evangelical Lutheran Church in Cambodia, our lovely friend, Dr. Reverend Franklin. We have Reverend Dr. Philip Becker and Dr. Jan13 also always walk beside us, for being always connect and strongly support women leadership, and have always encouraged and inspire us to move forward with this journey together. Especially, it's very touch, inspiring, and strengthen women leadership in Asia. To be courageous, strong, and respond to God's calling with their gift and talents to serve their own church, community, and society. So, brother and sister in Christ, I would like to encourage us to stand together, support one another, so all for your comments. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop. You have summarized some of the challenges for a church, young church, one of the youngest churches under the Lutheran communion. Not only in terms of the broader challenges, but also personal challenges as a newly elected leader. Thank you so much. Now I call upon Bishop Thomas Lord.
So just one or two. Because if you don't set limits, I'll be here for 2 hours.
Take away your microphone.
You can ask him, it doesn't matter. My voice doesn't need a mic. Oh, it's good to be here. I would just like to share some, maybe a little bit, 2 things. Okay, one is that in Malaysia, the uniqueness and the role that we play as a Lutheran church is that among all the mainline denominations, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Anglicans, in fact, our Lutheran church is the youngest in Malaysia. In fact, this year we are only celebrating our 70th year anniversary. So we are the new kid on the block in that sense. So in one sense is that we are quite, in a sense is that we serve as a very neutral party among the mainline denominations. And we have always been working very closely with the other denominations. If you are to ask me, are there denominational tensions in Malaysia? The answer is practically, I don't think so there is. All right? But the thing is, we always say, it has not always been like this. In the early days, all the denominations, they just work on their own. All right? Everyone does their own things. And of course, there are many attempts to bring the denominations together, the various bishops together, to work closely together. But a lot of attempts has been made. There was some accomplishment, but not very much. The strange part is that God has a very strange sense of humor. Because of the Allah issue. Alright? And it didn't start among the Protestants, it started in the Catholics. See, the Catholics have a publication and they talk about using the word Allah as for God, the translation into Bahasa, which was fine. But then of course, some politicians, some religious leaders came in and said you cannot use the word Allah, right? As if that is copyright, that Allah only refer to their God. Which we know, if you understand the linguistic, you can't argue that. But anyway, it started, and then the Catholics didn't back down. They allowed it to go to the court. And strange enough, when that issue was raised, it brought all the Christians together. That's why we have a joke which says, what Jesus couldn't do, Allah did. Alright? And this whole Allah controversy drew all the Protestants and the Catholics together. And what makes it even more strange is that that issue exploded actually in East Malaysia. Alright? But then all the West Malaysian rose up and joined in a sense of solidarity to work together to respond as a Christian voice that the word Allah, you cannot copyright that. Alright? Because you don't own the language. And of course, there are many other things. And Dr. Stephen Kidd ran very far away to Norway and did his dissertation there because it's the only safe place to do it. If he does it in Malaysia, I'll be visiting them in prison. Okay, so he's very much part of that struggle. Okay, and it really brought together. Now later on in the 500th anniversary of the Reformation in 2017. In 2016, our Lutheran Church initiated an official connection with the Catholic Church. So we took the lead, bringing along with us the Methodists, the Anglicans, or Presbyterian. And we have dialogue between clergies. We even have dialogue together with the lay people from the two traditions. Ever since then, our relationship has been wonderful. And the Archbishop is a very close friend. I see him in all the meetings, very nice guy. and we work together very well. So even though the Lutheran Church in Malaysia may not be a very big church, we are the new kid on the block, but at least we played that role of bringing the Catholics even closer to the rest of the denomination. And today, the Christian community in Malaysia is very united, and even more united because of our common struggle. The last election, we call it the green wave, because suddenly we see, even though none of the party got a simple majority, but alarmingly, the Islamic group got I would say, none of us expected that much of win. So that signal and urgency that we who are Christians need even more so to be united in order to be prepared for whatever agenda that may be brought about by politicians. Because in Malaysia, you really cannot separate religion from politics. Okay? And so we are getting, so all the more it motivates us to come together. So in Malaysia, we Lutherans have a very distinct leadership and role to play. But at the same time, in Malaysia, the differences among the denominations, there's no real conflict actually. You know, we always work together very closely. So that is a great blessing in Malaysia. That's one thing. The second thing I'd like to share is, okay, just a second. Okay, is what happened during COVID. Now, during COVID, again, God has a very strange sense of humor. God actually brought about not only the Christians together, but God also allowed us a situation whereby all the religious differences and differences in ethnicity began slowly to be lowered. Now, the reason is this. During the COVID, our government was a weak government. In fact, all of them were too busy playing games. The people were neglected. To a point whereby 1 year in the COVID, the people who lost their job and everything like that came to a point whereby they really says, if nobody help me, I just give up. So started the white flag movement. That means that there are certain family that came to a point whereby they really have no food on their table. They have not eaten for 3 days or 4 days, and basically they surrendered and said that if nobody comes to help, we are dead. And so they just put up a white flag, just get a bed sheet, put it up. And it started that white flag movement, that whenever there is a white flag, no question asked, regardless what religion or people group you're from, the NGO, the church group would deliver the food to your doorstep. No question asked. And in that situation, the churches came together. Some churches work on their own, and then there's some they come together. They started a lot of food bank and just put whatever food that is on the cupboard, put it outside the church. Anybody can come at any time to take whatever that you need, all right? And of course, there is that fear of abuse. People, I say, it's okay, all right? We have to work on trust. And a lot of churches did that. Churches came together and do it as an organization. But more importantly, there were some people that came together and formed an NGO consisting of inviting people of all religion and all people group coming together. So the churches joined them, different people group joined them. There were Malay, Chinese, Indians, Hindu, Buddhists, Christians, just came together and worked together to respond to all these needs, including the indigenous people. It's because, I don't know whether this will get back to my government. The government neglected the people. So the people have to rise up to help the people. So it became an opportunity for Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims to come together. And that common struggle and challenge It's really the grace of God that I see Genesis 50 coming to pass again, that God can use, that God can turn evil into something good. And that brought people together. So Malaysia right now, we are moving to the next phase of nation building because the government is not a majority government, it's an alliance. But there is that alarming thing about that the Islamic group have taken much more than we anticipated. So all the more we cannot, slack. And I see it as a good thing in a sense that all that we have built up among the different religious group, among the different Christian group, denomination group, all the goodwill have been built up during the COVID. And we can build on top of them. And I see it as a good thing. So that is where, Malaysia stands. Just two things.
Thank you very much. That's very, very impressive accomplishment on the part of the Christian community. I now turn to India where the opposite is happening.
Yeah, thank you. Privileged to be sitting left to the Lady Bishop and right to the man Bishop. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Of course, I won't be sharing much on, particularly on India, since I was part of the LWF theological education formation, particularly proposing certain plans and actions for Lutherans around the Johns, 6 or 7 Johns worldwide. And also I was a part of the Identity and Lutheran Confession project and seminars, so I thought I would share a few things regarding this one and switch to a little bit to what is in India. Here is the youngest Lutheranism in the world. Here is the oldest Lutheranism in the world. Okay, now just to start with, one question to the public, please. Was Luther Lutheran? Yeah? Yes, no? No. Okay. Luther was not Lutheran. We are Lutheran, right? Poor fellow, he was requesting, please, not after my name. But what to do? It came by this name. Now we are Lutheran. But he was Christian and trying to make all Catholics true Christian. Now in that we have all those theological positions, theological challenges. I would like to share a few things now. One big challenge. Being Lutheran, how to be ecumenical. Great challenge. Vice versa, being ecumenical, again, how to maintain Lutheran. This is a really a big challenge. Because where I come from, my seminary, Gurukul Lutheran Theological College and Research Institute, is ecumenical, but the name is Lutheran. And often we face, why Lutheran in between? Here is Gurukul, very much Indian in terms of term. Here is Lutheran. Here is theological, all those things. Anyway, now this is a big challenge. Perhaps all will agree, Luther was trying to be ecumenical, not in terms of ecclesiological ecumenism, right? But whether ecumenism, that we need to understand. In that light now, I'd like to throw a few things. And I have been here for 3 ALIC conference, starting from Medan, Udon Thani, and here in Chiang. Rather, our identity is mixed identity. That's what I have read. We have multiple identities rather. How to identify as Lutheran is very difficult for some of the participants, particularly representing various churches, particularly in Southeast Asia. So this is a big challenge. So we have drafted certain documents to be presented in Poland, the next assembly of the LWF. There we have drafted something called How to be Doctrinally Lutheran, How to be Confessionally Lutheran, and how to be functionally Lutheran. This is the basic challenge. Of course, we have other spirituality and other things are there, but this is the 3 challenges we are posing. are we on Lutheran doctrine or theology? Of course, I'm not much for doctrine part. I don't believe much in doctrine, right? Because doctrine divided the church, not uniting the church. But we have a strong theology. So how to be theologically sound, as Luther was resisting against all other things, right? Which is against the gospel or the word of God. This is one of the challenges. And then particularly the next is, what do we confess? What is our confessional identity? In terms of course, theology, liturgy, and ecclesiology. What do we confess? Lutheran confession, this is very big challenge. And the third one is functionally, how to be really Lutheran. And what was Luther theologically proposing in terms of function of a Christian? Right? That a Christian is a free master of all. But again, the Christian is bound to serve, slave of all. Now that kind of identity. So in terms of function, what is our Lutheran identity? That clicked on my mind, so I thought I would share this one and then connect to something what we are doing, both koinonial ministry as well as diaconal ministry. Maybe in terms of koinonial ministry also, how much we are Lutheran. It's a big challenge, particularly for Southeast Asia Lutherans. And then, of course, in diaconal part, yes, we are doing quite a lot of things. There it is. But how this diaconal ministry is done with Lutheran confessional expressions, that we are bound to serve the neighbor. So that is my challenge. And then all those things now, big challenges. It has not gone to the grassroots. Whatever you call theology, Lutheran doctrine, Lutheran confession, we have a project going on right now. Of course, all these Lutherans in India have said we have 12 member churches.